for Fundamental African-Centered Thought. And today is the, Fundamental African-Centered Thought. And our goal here on the Fact Project is to convey some facts and some information to members of our community. Today is the first Monday of the month. So it is Agyei Tyehimba, the Agyei Tyehimba edition of the Fact Project. Agyei Tyehimba is an author, an educator, an activist, a Black nationalist, a Pan-Africanist, and a revolutionary. Creator of Black Liberation University and Harlem Liberation School. Peace, Brother Agyei. Thank you for getting on with us today, brother.
Peace and Black Power, family.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How you been since the last time we spoke?
Write down my laundry list of complaints, but I don't think any of your listeners would care to know. I'm doing well, man. All things considered, man, I'm tremendously blessed, and I am exceedingly grateful for being here. 56 years of age. I had a birthday on April 25th, and I grew up in Harlem at a time where we were getting constant news reports that Black men in Harlem would not live past the age of 21. To be 56 in those conditions with medical issues and all that, man, I feel really blessed, honestly.
Yeah, and I remember those days in the 90s when they talked about how the average age of a Black man was 25. And if you live past the age of 25, that was like a miracle. And so that's how bad the violence was in the street. But Brother Agyei, before we get started having our conversation, I do want to mention that CMOTAP, the Committee to Eliminate Media Offensive to African People, has launched a campaign against Netflix because of their animated reboot of Good Times. Not sure if you heard about this campaign, but CMOTAP has written an open letter to Netflix, and that appears on offthecorner.net. So anyone wanting to get involved with the activism can go to offthecorner.net. You can copy paste that letter. You can put that in an email. You can print it out, snail mail, and send that over to Netflix to express your discontent with the way they are portraying us in this animated reboot of Good Times. There will be a demonstration, Brother Agyei, and everybody watching. There will be a demonstration in front of Netflix headquarters. That's going to be this coming Wednesday, June the 5th. And people will be gathering and beginning to meet around 5 p.m. in front of 888 Broadway in New York City, in front of the Netflix headquarters. Now, Brother Agyei, have you seen this Netflix animated reboot of Good Times? Have you caught wind of this?
I have. I was hearing about it, and, I just like to see things because sometimes people misunderstand something. And so you always want to see for yourselves. I said, let me go check it out. And yeah, I saw it, man. It's It's definitely, it goes back to the Amos Andy, Step and Fetch It type of stuff. It's the lowest hanging fruit, We're going to do something that's funny about Black people. What's funny? So immediately what comes to their minds are all the negative tropes and archetypes and stereotypes. We like watermelon. We pull, we curse all the time, we yell even when the person's right there. We certain types of dress and certain types of activity promoted, and it's just ridiculous. Yeah, I definitely support CMOTAP in that effort.
Okay. We know from, and you're a historian, you know history. Before you practice genocide on the people, you have to assassinate the character of those people. And so, we've seen this happen as it relates to genocide to the Native American people that were already here. We saw this happen in Nazi Germany during World War II. And we're living history now by seeing what's going on in Palestine as it relates to Palestinian people. So, this is not a far-flung concept. This is not nonsense. This is actually real. But anyway, Brother Agyei, last time you were on, you talked about the campaign you had launched against Syracuse University. Now, we get new viewers all the time. So just walk it back a little bit. What sparked the outrage against Syracuse University? And then give us the update on what the latest is in that campaign.
Sure. So those of you who know about the Black Power movement know that Black college students during the 1960s, fueled by the Black Power movement and fueled by the teachings of Brother Malcolm, demanded all around the country Black studies departments. They may have called them departments. Some of them wanted programs, classes, and through intense struggle, they they were granted these departments, but over time those departments became dilapidated, didn't have enough faculty. The university didn't keep their so-called, their stated at least, commitment to these departments to fund them properly. So starting in the 80s and even up to now, a lot of these departments are falling off. So at Syracuse, where there was great political activity around establishing such departments, I found out, and other black alumni found out, that the department didn't have a chairperson. The library didn't have a librarian. The MLK library, wasn't connected to the larger university system. So people couldn't go to another library and even know that this library existed on campus, or even know that there were certain books they were looking for in the library. So that kind of an isolationist sort of move, right? And so some of us just mounted a campaign, called certain people, put pressure on them, call them every day, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times a day, ask them, tell them we want a chairperson, we want something done. So the department was granted a chairperson, an interim chairperson, who will be there for 2 years. The individual happens to be a brother that I knew as a young undergrad at Syracuse. He was a grad student, and he eventually became a professor, and eventually became a leader of sorts at the university. A brother from Brooklyn, who has apparently helped to improve another department on the campus, and now he's at the Department of African American Studies. And although people like myself included, and the department and other alum, don't like the fact that he was appointed without conferring with the department, that's kind of whack. It's kind of a colonial empire move. At least it's him, because it could have been somebody that knows nothing about African American studies, has no relationship, no history, and he does have a relationship with the department. He's a fellow of the department. His master's was paid by the department, so there's a relationship there, so to speak. Yeah, to say anything else would be premature. I will say, family, stay tuned, because that battle is over, but the war is not over. It's still much more to fight. We have to talk about now, how do we build the department? How do we make it state of the art? How do we help take African American studies from the college campus to the streets, to the single parents, to the teens that are lost and turned out and going in nefarious direction? How do we make this academic discipline department relevant to black people who don't go to college? And why should you have to go to college to get Africana studies? That's one of the reasons we have Harlem Liberation School. That's one of the reasons we started. Why should you have to go to college to get Africana studies? We got people who can teach you Africana studies without you having to go to college.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So you got to stay tuned on that one, family.
You said he is the interim president.
Yes.
How long is chair, rather? How long is the chairmanship going to last? You said it's interim.
They say 2 years, and who knows? They might. The university probably wants to save money, resources, and time, so I'm sure they want to keep him as the chair. Okay. But that's between, I guess, the department and the faculty and all of them. So we just want to make sure that whoever this person is has integrity, understands the mission and the project called African American Studies Departments, and knows what it's about, what it's supposed to be teaching. That they're not just looking at it as, we just teach Black history. A lot of people try to reduce it to that, and it's actually interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary, which means Amos Wilson was a psychologist, but he was an Africana Studies professor, essentially. Frances Cress Welsing was a psychiatrist, but essentially she was an Africana Studies professor. Right in the tradition of Africana Studies. So it doesn't matter what discipline a person's in. It could be history, political economics, it could be science. I'm trying to get them to look at gaming, science, nanotechnology. There's a whole world out there, artificial intelligence, that Africana Study can encompass and can find its niche and way in it and stay relevant to our people.
Okay.
So it's not just history.
Okay, well, we appreciate that update. And here in the Fact Project, we don't just have conversations and talk. We also like to encourage activism. And the word activism comes from the root word act, which means to do something. And it seems a lot of people will prefer to have conversations about things as opposed to actually doing something. So now, in that context, you're still involved with the campaign to raise money for Dhoruba Bin Wahad. First of all, touch on who he is for the people that may not know, and then tell us what the latest is with the fundraising campaign for Brother Dhoruba.
Okay, you've all heard of the Black Panther Party. The original Black Panther Party started in 1966 in Oakland, California. And you know about the Black Liberation Army, hopefully. So if you know about those two formations, Dhoruba Bin Wahad is very important to both of those formations. He was a New York City leader in the Black Panther Party. And probably I would say the party didn't come to New York until 1968. It wasn't available here until 1968. Then he and a number of people, for a number of reasons, one of which they were disgruntled by what they saw as an ideological shift in the party, from it being more revolutionary, calling for a change of government, calling for a release of prisoners, calling for a lot of different radical things, to some people feel like now it's becoming a social service agency. It was giving out food, which is good, important, getting clothes, which is good and important, but it's much more than that. So a lot of people kind of didn't like where they saw the party is going, and they kind of went their separate way. And some of those people started a new formation called the Black Liberation Army. I'm not going to get into that too much. I don't know who's watching your show, but I will say that they address the issue of racist police and police brutality in a very direct way. So Dhoruba Bin Wahad is now like 76. He unfortunately he's one of still been banging on imperialism, banging on colonization and neo-colonial leaders and capitalism and white supremacy. All these years, he's a political prisoner for 19 years. Did 19 years in jail. He got released because of his research of COINTELPRO. And he's one of the co-founders of the Black Liberation Army. He now has stage 4 cancer. He's kind of living between the United States and a certain country in Africa. And he has a very exorbitant medical costs. You imagine he has transportation fees. There's a number of things he's dealing with. And we're trying to, Harlem Liberation School started a GoFundMe to try to help our brother, man, because he stuck his neck out for us. It's the least we can do. So it's a $10,000 goal. And when I last checked, it was about $6,525. So you could say, closing in on $3,000 left. It's rough. It's more than that, but yeah.
So you have people step up and donate.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Nice.
sir. We have. I don't know if you have the link, but
I just posted the link in the chat. The GoFundMe link is up. So if anybody wants to go to that GoFundMe to support Brother Dhoruba Bin Wahad, the link is there. So we would encourage people to go ahead and do that. Now, Brother Agyei, when I was coming up, Medgar Evers College had a community radio station. And I don't know the name of the show or the brothers that won it, but there were brothers on there. They were like hardcore Pan-African and Black nationalists. And the first time I heard the name Dhoruba Bin Wahad was on their show. The show was on Tuesday evenings at around 6. I wish I could remember the name so I could salute those brothers. But Brother Dhoruba was one of the names they talked about a lot. And they talked a lot about Brother John Watusi Branch from the African Poetry Theater in Queens. You familiar with him?
Vaguely, very vaguely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has since made transition, but he started the African Poetry Theater in Jamaica, Queens, and they hosted a lot of events. I saw a lot of speakers there. Any number of people came there. Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark. I saw M. Fundishi Jehutimis. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He's out of Harlem. I saw him there. I saw Charles Barron spoke there. Alton Maddox when he was still around. I saw him speak there as well.
Like a slave theater place.
Yeah, it's sort of. Yeah, they had they would do poetry. They had different events there, but on Sundays they would have organizations would kind of, I guess, use the space to meet
Mm-hmm.
there. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, when I hear the name Dhoruba Bin Wahad, that takes me back to the late '80s when I was coming up and I was listening to some of those names. Now you mentioned the Black Panther Party, and the Black Panther Party had socialist programs, and you had did a video recently where you were talking about the socialist view versus capitalism. What can you tell us about that?
Well, basically, and it's important to frame this within a critique that was offered by and still being raised by some people who are nationalists or pan-Africanists or what have you, is that to have a critique of white supremacy and racism is not enough.
Mm.
That yes, we know there's white supremacy and racism clearly, but there's another piece of that we have to identify, critique, and analyze, and that's capitalism or class. So, in other words, how this economic system, this political economic system, alienates people from themselves, how it forces a certain views and values that are anti-humane, how it makes property more important than people, how it has how it has some of our own children not listening to their parents because their parents ain't rich and their parents ain't flossing, but they listen to people who they think have more authority and who are more valuable because they have more money. You see, this is what people bang on capitalism. I don't think people really understand what it does and why we got to critique it. It creates a culture wherein we want bags and shoes and coats and all this stuff, right? We just getting houses just to store stuff. George Carlin famously said this, the white comedian. He said the purpose of a house isn't to live in it; it's to store your stuff,
Yeah, right.
just a bunch of stuff. And we're enriching people who despise our very presence, enriching them.
Mm.
All these different we know our kids know labels and designs and all this stuff, and don't know the basic things they need to know to navigate in the world. So when we talk about socialism, it's a critique of capitalism from many angles, and it's not coming from the white European socialists. It's coming from more of a radical African-centered socialism. John Henry Clark said that we were practicing that before it had a name. You know, old people, people who were infirm weren't required to work, weren't looked upon to contribute money because they couldn't. They're
Right.
infirm, they're old, right? So younger people were looked upon to do that. Nobody was given more importance than anyone else. Everybody owned community property. It wasn't the property of, you know, Agyei owns the water supply. Like, come on, what type of foolishness is that? When everyone needs water, but I'm the only one that owns it. It was considered this is our water, this is our land, right? This is our village. And just like when everything is good, when everything was bad, when there was war and it was time to fight and it was struggle, it was seen as that's not Agyei's war, that's our fight. So the reverse is true too. And you see that capitalism, at least for now, has won because most of our people and kids are caught up. Designer clothes, we into all the stuff that's completely not makes is not important, really. It really isn't. But what's important is how you treat the people on this earth that are your people. What are you prepared to sacrifice for? Am I going to sacrifice for a pair of jeans, or am I going to sacrifice to enhance the quality of my children's knowledge of the world, how they see themselves? When they look in the mirror, do they see themselves as beautiful, melanated people, human beings capable of anything as long as they do the work and study? Or do they see negative stereotypes? I'm not good enough. I'm not slim enough. I'm not curvy enough. I'm not this enough. So look what capitalism does. It got our sisters going out here scraping up money, getting butt implants. It got brothers going out here fronting like they Big Willie, running up their credit cards and they don't have money for real assets because they're trying to live up to an image because they've been made to think that their value lies in their wallet, or for our sisters, other places which we will not name on this show. and that's not the key. Your value lies here and here, family. It's in your character and your intelligence and your willingness to provide service to your community, your family and your larger community. So that critique socialism is very important to the degree that we understand that. And then it has even implications for land. When people freedom fighters win a revolution and they have a socialist sort of leaning, there's a tendency to redistribute the land, because white people had this land in a part of Africa that clearly was not theirs. So when people take over, they take the land back, right? They may put it under government control, or they may start parceling out the land to black farmers, to black people that live in that country. So socialism is important for that critique of capitalism, and not just critique it, replaces it with a new way of looking at things. But I want to add to your family, as with anything, we have to be careful that we don't become the oppressors that we just fought. Because with any one of these ideologies, there's certain white socialists and communists and Marxists that actually starved millions of their people, like Stalin. Pol Pot in Cambodia killed a third of his country, family. So it's very important that we have the character that matches the ideology. That's important. Even if it's a radical ideology, it can be oppressive. So we have to have the character with it.
Yeah, you talked about African communalism, and that's something that John Henry Clark referred to, African communalism. People say socialism. I think socialism is kind of associated with Bernie Sanders and those types of people. That's not the kind of socialism you're talking about, is it?
No, that's more of a. And let me say this: America is socialist to a small degree. It's what you might call democratic socialism. So think about this, family. If your house was burning down and people were shooting up your apartment building, but you didn't have the money, so you didn't make your contribution to the police, and you didn't make your contribution to the fire department, so they let your building burn. How atrocious would that be, right? So to prevent that, they have socialized the fire department and the police department. What does that mean? It means that those people's salaries are paid from taxes. So that means that they're able to provide all citizens, whether you're a millionaire or you in the street homeless, with supposedly a police department and a fire department. That's the general thinking. So that's like a modified form of socialism, if you want to think of it that way.
Okay.
But yeah, we definitely not. I'm definitely not talking about the Bernie Sanders type.
Gotcha. Now you talked about the materialism aspect of capitalism. Capitalism is also defined by enslavement, genocide, colonialism, and exploitation. Would you agree with that?
Well, yeah, I would agree with it, and that has to be framed under that idea of materialism. All of those things come from a nation's greed and desire for free labor, for having amenities and benefits that they didn't work for and got the nerve to call us lazy, right? Like, who's the laziest person on earth? The person that's doing 2-3 jobs, even if some of them are illegal, or the person that's enslaving somebody else to do the work? You got to really think about that, black people. Who's the real lazy person? But anyway, yeah, all of this colonialism, imperialism, this idea I want to build an empire, all is based on the idea that we're going to take other people's natural resources, mineral resources, their labor, right? We're going to take even their children. We're going to use them as pawns to generate more income for us. It's all based on looking at people as material and stealing from people their natural material and minerals. And that could be land, gold, oil, diamonds, uranium, whatever. So yes, it leads to colonialism, imperialism, and everything else, because you're not looking at people as people. You're looking at them as property. That's, and sometimes that's how we were looked at, as actual property. When Harriet Tubman famously was known as Black Moses, and she's freeing her family members from bondage. Those wanted ads had money, 50,000, 20,000, because she was seen as property that was stealing property from white people in the form of African people.
Okay, so now that's so we don't get confused with the Bernie Sanders and them brand of socialism. Shouldn't we pivot and refer to it as African communalism as opposed to using the term socialism? Because that can cause some confusion.
I think that's possible. Sure, we could do that.
Okay. Okay. Now, you had also recently spoken to brother Jeff Moore, who is referred to as the wealth builder, and he talked about whole life insurance. Now, I'm not asking you to be the expert on whole life insurance, but can you expound on some of what he touched on?
Yeah. So this guy Jeff Moore is a financial broker expert, and he was on a broadcast talking about using whole life. Brothers and sisters, I didn't say whole life. I said whole life insurance as a form of personal bank. So it's this idea that he said this type of insurance we were kept away from. It's been around for 100 years. We just were allowed to get into it about 40, 30, 50 years ago. He said that it gives you guaranteed interest. He says that it is a tax. It protects you from taxes, at least until you take all money out. As long as you're putting money in, the money is protected from tax. It's a tax shelter. He said that if you wanted to borrow money from it, there's no credit check. You don't have to fill out a form. You don't got none of that. No collateral. And he said that you have to get a broker. It's not something you can go to the bank supposedly and do for yourself. I have to research that. That you need a broker to kind of write this contract for you or something like that. Now, I know nothing about it, so all I could do is ask him questions and take his answers. I can't verify what he said. I can't deny what he said. I can't confirm what he said. But I do know that there's a certain sister who responded to the post, said that some of that is misleading. So we're going to have her on the show, just to make sure we get the right information. And maybe it wasn't that he was misleading. Maybe he left out some information that we need to know. I like to think the best of our people until our people give me reason not to. So I'm going to assume that maybe he left something out that's important for us to know. But we're going to get to the bottom of it, because what he's saying is that this is what certain ethnic groups, Jews, use to build wealth for their people over time. And just so we're clear, this allows you you can put money in, and you can take from it. But it also creates an actual, almost a bank, where if your child needed something for school, or your spouse needs something, or really it's supposed to be for assets. I'm glad he made that distinction. I've been on YouTube. I see, we always got the flashy brother, and he's, with the one gold tooth, and he's telling, yeah, brother, you get in this, I got a car. And he said it's not for that. This is so that you have something you can go to, and let's say you want to go to school because you want to get a new skill, or you want to put this in your business, and you want to get machinery or certain products you need, laptops or whatever you need to get for that. That will generate more income. It's supposed to be an asset building thing. People use it, I think he was saying incorrectly, for these instantaneous things that really depreciate, and that messes up the whole point of a bank. A bank doesn't put money into stuff that depreciates. You better trust and know that.
That's good advice. I'm not an expert on I'm not an expert on insurance, but that's actually really good advice to use the money to purchase assets, as opposed to buying jewelry and flat screens and motorcycles and whatever people buy.
Right.
So either way, if you're just joining us, we're talking to educator, author, and activist brother Agyei Tyehimba. You can put his name in the search online if you want to get those books. So, brother Agyei, let's touch on that real quick. Talk about the books that you have and what's available online for purchase right now for those people that might see you and say, yeah, this brother's dropping a lot of jewels. I want to go ahead and get his book.
Thank you for that. I've written 5 books. I'm working on a 6th one now, family. It's going to be a serious self-empowerment book, serious. But I have a book called Game Over: The Rise and Transformation of a Harlem Hustler. That's the true story of a brother named A.Z. Faison. I wrote it with him. I interviewed him over several years directly. He's the brother, in case you don't know, A.Z. Alpo, Rich Porter. You know that trio of young drug dealers, teenage drug dealers in the 80s and 90s in Harlem. He wrote a movie about it called Paid in Full, which many of you may have seen, with Mekhi Phifer and Cameron in it. So they considered that book did really well, still selling pretty well. Did a book called Truth for Our Youth, which is a self-empowerment book for teens. I think I may have that.
Truth for Our Youth. Yeah, that's a good one.
And those people on the cover, they're in high school. But when we started a school 24 years ago called Knowledge and Power Preparatory Academy, the students on the cover there were some of our first 5th graders that we started the school with, 3 classes of 5th graders. So 90 students, and we grew that from 5th grade to 8th grade. And so that book is good for our young people.
Yeah, absolutely. I recommend that book for parents and students. You definitely need
to choose friends and all that type of stuff, peer pressure.
Yeah.
Really good. Winning and losing attributes of a personality. So yeah. And then we have my 2 cents, which is like a bunch of blogs, sort of articles I put together and wrote. We have the book, The Blueprint of BSU Handbook, which is teaching Black students on college campuses and Black student unions how to fight, how to protest, how to win, how to negotiate, those different parts of a protest sort of campaign. And actually, I have a family member who says that he used it as part of when they were having a union issue at his job, and it was very effective. So it's really, although it's written for students, the same principles apply of organizing, community outreach, using propaganda, how you use the media, how you build a movement in terms of protest, how you negotiate, are the same things you use in any sort of organizing campaign like that. And then the latest book was on leadership, philosophy, ethics, and practice, because a lot of the things I hear my beautiful people complaining about go back to, or can be partly attributed to, poor leadership. Leadership is not exerting good leadership. Leadership makes piss poor decisions. Leadership that's weak. Leadership that is incompetent. Leadership that's not honest. Leadership that's stealing or whatever. It goes back to that. Whether it's in the home, it's in the block, it's in the community. Listen, I'm on a block in Harlem. There's a white lady that's the head of the block association.
Right.
2, that's number 1. Number 2, this block hasn't had a block party and I don't know how long. And I've heard a person that was on a community board tell me to my face, "Hey, we don't like your block, and that's why y'all don't have block parties." Huh? That's leadership. The block had appropriate leadership that stepped up, then some of those things would change.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm not saying everything goes back is all about leadership, but leadership is very important, because the average person will see something, complain, "Man, we working 7 days a week. Man, they got my little kid working, and he's only 9 years old. I got hurt and I couldn't come to work and I lost my job." But union leaders and activists fought so that you have a weekend, so that you have an 8-day workday, so that you have time and a half if you work overtime, right? And you're a non-exempt employee. So that if you get hurt, you have insurance. All those things came from leadership. That's what I'm trying to get people to see. Like, a lot of things that we sit on and we benefit from came from people who weren't satisfied with just complaining in the barbershop. They said, "Now we got to do something about this." Street lights. Something as simple as street lights and stop signs. And it came from people organizing, right? So the leadership book is close to my heart, and I'm hoping that I was very honored to be called by a former student at that school we started. I talked about Knowledge and Power Preparatory Academy 24 years ago. She's now a principal of a K through 5 school
Wow.
in Brooklyn. I want to shout out Andrea Coleman at Ivy Hill Preparatory Charter. And she has a copy of the book. She's reading through like, whoa, we gotta hire you. You can come here and help us. And that's what it's about. Whether it's me or someone else, leaders don't know everything. But with respect to what it is they do, they're gonna find out everything. They're gonna get in touch with the person who knows about this, the person who knows about that, and they're gonna make it happen. They're not gonna sit around and just be upset. You better know that. There's
You know,
only one thing, that's if the people ain't ready. Sometimes the people ain't ready. And you can't, I don't care who you are, you can't just go out there by yourself and you ain't got no back. People not ready.
that's true.
You can't go farther than the people ever. That's rule number one.
That's true. You talked about a sister that has now become principal. Is it safe to say that who you are is a matter of what you've been exposed to? And this gave rise to her becoming principal?
A lot of it, now, of course, man, you know, there's that old saying, the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree. Well, fruit, of course, is inanimate, doesn't have legs, can't move, right? And whereas that may be true with people, in the case of people, our history has so many stories of people whose parents may not have been the most proactive, African-centered, whatever, may not have been in the home, may have been using drugs, whatever they were doing, right? But the child took it upon, made choices to say, because I see that and I don't support that, I'm not going that way. I see that and I'm into that, and that seems to lead to good. I'm going that way. So, but however, the studies show that kids are largely, and adults are largely impacted by what they are exposed to and by what they are not exposed to. Sometimes it's what you're not exposed to that kill you.
Mm.
You know?
Can you give examples of that?
Yes, sir. So it's a balance. If I grow up in a home, hypothetically, and everybody's shooting, when they have arguments, the way they solve it is shooting at each other, or stabbing each other up. That's something I'm directly seeing all the time. So I may have a proclivity for violence. I may grow up thinking that violence is the first thing I resort to when I have a conflict, or violence is permissible, or violence is okay. Or if I grew up in a home where unfortunately the father was beating up on the wife or the mother, I may grow up thinking as a young lady child, a female child, I may grow up thinking that although I didn't like hearing those screams from mom and I didn't like her face looking messed up, when it happens to her, she may think it happened to mom. Maybe that's part of the story. Right? Not necessarily, but she might. And you notice that there's generations of that sometimes. That the dysfunction or the toxicity you see happens in generation after generation.
Yeah, that's something
But in that same home, let's say they have an uncle living with them. And every time something happens to the mother, the uncle says, now you know you don't have to deal with that. You don't let that man do it. And he comes and talks to that little girl and says, what you saw there, that's not good. That's not your mother's fault. We're going to try to help her, but don't you ever let a man do that. So it's complicated. Like, you have people, I had a principal at one of the schools I was at who saw some very ugly things in her childhood, in her home. But the way she took it was, I'm going the exact opposite way. I'm not going to go the route. She didn't mess with the drugs. She wasn't messing with some of the organizations around the way that was involved with the violence. She was more selective with some of the guys, and she made certain choices to move in a different direction. And like the young lady I talked about, she became a principal. So she saw it as that's because she saw the education was the little school they had. She didn't eat at home. She ate in school. You understand? So for her, school was a harbor of safety. So when she got older, that's what she did. So that can go either way. But let's put it this way: there's no guarantees. You can raise a kid. Malcolm X and Assata Shakur could have got married and raised a kid, and that kid could have went the wrong way. So we don't want to say it's always the parents, but we do want to say this: if you want to give your kid the best chance, all things considered, you want to expose them to wholesome stuff, good stuff, not a bunch of sexual assault in the hip hop, not a bunch of what that end say. I'm gonna kick that end. What? I'm gonna shoot. Because then it'll be difficult to get mad if they represent that, because that's what they've seen and know. And then once it's embedded, it's hard to what? Extract it. You ever had a tooth extracted?
No.
I did.
Okay.
And man, you don't know how, a tooth is long. We see it here, we think it's like this, man. When they pull that tooth, they pulling. It's hard to extract something that's deeply embedded. So what we want to do as parents and caregivers is try to give them the best. And obviously we all fall short. So speaking to your point, yes, exposure, what we expose them to, what we fail to expose them to are equally important. And that's very important that we take that into account as parents and caregivers.
So you hear this knowledge, people. Get online. I posted the links in the chat where you can go and find Brother Agyei's books. And Brother Agyei always says, stop playing and buy my books. So I will echo that same sentiment. Stop playing and go ahead and get Brother Agyei's books. Now, Brother Agyei, we talked about capitalism and how it leads to materialism. And I don't want to promote any drug trade, but we know a lot of the history of the drug trade in New York City is linked to materialism and this need for capital. You mentioned drug trade. I was supposed in Harlem that you wrote, about. Did that conflict at any point with the Supreme Team out of Queens in the 1980s?
The book?
Well, the book or the people that were profiled in the book?
Not to my knowledge. The brother I wrote the book about was cool with to my knowledge, with Black Just and a lot of the brothers that was down on the Queens side. They played ball. Matter of fact, one of the scenes he talks about playing ball with a bunch of the brothers from Queens, and for $5,000, I think $1,000, $2,000 a piece, and whoever won got the money. Yeah, so I think that they had a kind of from what I now remember, this is from what I'm gathering from him, and what he said was they were pretty much cool.
Okay.
Okay.
So to pivot, former President Donald Trump was convicted Thursday on 34 counts of a whole bunch of different improprieties, including falsifying business records and so forth. I would be remiss if we didn't bring it up. What is your perspective on the trial and the outcome so far?
Malcolm, famously in his grassroots speech in Detroit, he referenced a reverend named Reverend Albert Cleage. He became known as Brother Juramanje, who started the famous Shrine of the Black Madonna. He Africanized this reverend. But he famously said, Reverend Cleage said he don't like it. And if he don't like it, you know what it means to me, right? Meaning he's moderate. So if he don't like it, I'm radical. I don't like it. I was in church Sunday, and the pastor of the church, my childhood church, he got up and he said, much to his credit, he took a good 5 minutes before his sermon, and he talked about the whole issue. He broke down, the fact that Donald Trump was accused, and he's guilty of what he was accused of, right? But back in the day when the so-called Central Park Five was being accused of rape, which they were innocent of, he took out a full-page ad, I think in the Times. I want to say the New York Times or Daily News.
It was New York
and
Times.
He called for them to be killed. He called for them to get the death penalty. That's serious, man. Right? And now he was making the point that back at you. Now it's maybe we should take out a full-page ad. Of course, he's being facetious. He's a Christian minister. I don't think he would advocate that. But so in a ways to say, if he's upset with it, you know what I think about that. Number one, Donald Trump is a failed businessman, failed husband, and the only thing he's been successful at is continuing to operate business even though he's failed at business. Living on borrowed credit. I mean, he's lied. He's a misogynist, clearly. Definitely somebody that doesn't respect women. And more than just not respecting women in this abstract way, no way you may speak or think of them, he actually is brutal with women in a physically abusive sort of way with women. It's also very dismissive, very objectifying. Oh, I want that one. Like he's picking out a lollipop or a TV. I want that one, right? I think that I give respect to all of the people who are involved. Alvin, I think his name is Alvin Bragg, in bringing this to light. But I would caution black people. We're the people who have a whole holiday celebrating that we learned we was free 3 years late. And we celebrate that.
Right.
So I would caution us to participate in parades and celebrate too soon, because I have a funny feeling. See, I want you to think about this. Obama, who I wasn't a big supporter of for obvious political reasons. Think about Obama. Think about if he had led essentially an insurrection at the White House as a sitting president. Think about some of the comments Trump has made if Obama had made them in reverse. And think about if Obama had been convicted of all these things. First of all, would Obama even be able to run for president? They'd have had Obama buried, literally or figuratively, under the jail. He is a traitor to his own country. Clearly. He is proven to have been involved in trying to manipulate the presidential election with the help of Russia. Traitorous activity, you're a sitting president. Just on those two things alone, constitutionally, he should be in jail at minimum. Because y'all know, watching, usually there's two consequences for being a traitor. That's death by a hanging or firing squad, or jail. And that's almost every country on this planet, right? That's how they look at traitors. So to me, it's amazing that he's even in a courtroom to be in a trial. He should be in jail already. He should have been in jail. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a victory. I was in here. Yeah, good for him. Yelling out the window when I saw but at the end of the day, he's like, wait a minute. It's the 52 fake out, because he's supposed to be in jail already.
Right.
He's not supposed to be out in a trial. He's supposed to be what he has done. Right? So, and the other thing is, I think to pivot from that, he's a distraction. I think at some point somebody has leadership. This is what I mean by leadership. Raises those critical questions. Okay, what do we make of this? What do we do with this? Let's say that he goes to jail forever. Are we good? No. Let's say that he runs for office and he becomes president. Do we shrink up and die? What is our proactive agenda? So I want to pivot the discussion now. Like this, to me, this says, how do we get involved? How do we look at party politics on the local level? I'm not even going to talk about the presidents, but on the local level, where it affects business contracts, it affects school budgets, and it affects whose streets are cleaned up and what the sanitation workers are paid, and all. It affects a lot of things on practical levels, right? How do we engage that system? So for instance, what is the black agenda? What do black people want? What thing do we hold black politicians to, the black preachers to, the black organizations to the black everybody to. Where's our 10 points, 7 points, 15 points? This is our agenda. And we judge you not on the basis of how fine you are, how curvy you look, how your teeth look, how well you spit, game. We judge you on the basis of this agenda and your ability at least to convince us that you can help us fulfill it. Period. Like every other intelligent people. You can go in their mosques, you can go to Jewish temple, kiss their babies all you want. At the end of the day, you can go play the sax and the ukulele like Clinton did all you want. They don't care about that. They want to know what you're going to do about Israel. How many billions of dollars we going to get for Israel? How many billions of dollars we going to get for our schools, right? We need to be like that. But we can't do that because we don't even have an agenda. So you got to first say, well, what's the things that we demand, that we want, the things that we think are crucial? And it would seem to me that some of those things would include something to do with education, something to do with police brutality, something to do with health. All these black people dying prematurely, and these are getting to run around at hospitals and not getting pain medication because they think we all drug addicts. It's crazy. So it's like at least 7 different categories, and we have an agenda. Then I think, my brother, that we should not just allow people to pop up and say they're running for something. Right? We should start vetting people to run for offices for New York City Council. You can do a lot of good work in the New York City Council, family, those y'all watching. And, I'm not a big supporter of America's institutions, but we're here. They ain't going nowhere, and we ain't free yet. So we may have to start mastering some of these things and learning how they work so that when we have a nation, we know how to govern a city, govern a nation, write legislation, run elections. I don't know about you, but I don't have that experience. So running for a city council and being a council person would give you that experience, but you have hearings, you hold people accountable, you have discretionary funds, you can throw a little something over here to this black nonprofit, to this black school, to this black organization. There's things you can do. But I think we have to stop just letting people pop up and run for office because they see it as a come up. We have to start saying, these are the qualities we want in a elected official. This is our agenda. Who in our community, forget who's thinking about running, who in our community right now shows and proves that they have this that we're looking for right now? Not they telling us. Who has shown that they speak out, that they go against the cracker? Excuse me, I know who's watching. I'll say it nicely for y'all, for the white man, the good white people. Who has shown that they go against them, are fearless, loves us, sacrifices for us, has honesty and integrity. Boom. Right? And has the ability to network and make things happen and win campaigns. And then we need to go deliberately to those people. Be like, yo, sister so-and-so at the church. Brother so-and-so, he could be in the Masonic Lodge. I don't care where he is, but this brother has been fighting. Brother so-and-so, down with the Republic of New Africa. You down, whatever you down with. We need you. We need you here. Would you consider running with this agenda? And once we do that, I bet you the political terrain will change for black people. Because that's how it can't be people just get I'm just going to run for something. Like, what? Who are you? We should always be saying, who are you? Why do you deserve my vote? And I don't need my baby kissed by you. I need to know what you're going to do about these things. It's like for us, if anyone ever watched Boardwalk Empire, they'll get it. Boardwalk Empire is talking about a real guy, Nucky Thompson, in a fictitious way. He's a mobster, but he's also a politician in Atlantic City back in the 1920s, right? And they got a character named Chalky White, who's a brother who's the black mobster played by my brother who passed. What was his name? Forget his name, but he played Omar in The Wire. And to bribe the white organizations to get them to vote a certain way in Atlantic City, Nucky's people gave them money. To bribe black people and the gangs to force people to vote a certain way, they gave them cigars. and liquor.
That's
You
funny.
see, when you see, they don't look at us with respect. Oh, we give them some cigars and some liquor. There's people not gonna go for no cigars. You have to give them money,
Sure.
something real that they can use, right? So that's what I'm saying. Like we have to, if we want to have that level of respect, we have to earn it by doing what self-respecting men and women do. You know, we go out and vet the politicians for New York City Council. And I'm dead serious about it. Or else you're gonna keep getting people who are whack, who are unsuccessful here. So now this is just another venture for them. A guaranteed check and a little bit of prestige. And we can't afford that.
You
You
talked
know?
about you talked about the politicians that come among us and they don't offer anything of substance. Years ago, the great Omawali Malcolm X said that the system will only give us symbolic victories and never give us real justice or economic equality. So you can't just come among us, play the saxophone, say you have hot sauce in your purse, or dance the Dougie. It should be something of some economic value. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. And furthermore, we understand black people to be oppressed and colonized is to live with compromise all the time of your life.
Mm.
It's to compromise. Do I work for the white man? Do I get a check? Or do I? That's a compromise decision. Do I do this or do I do that? You're constantly faced. We're not an independent nation. Given that, the question becomes, how do I best authentically express my humanity in a way that can protect and advance mine in this system that we're in as we work to get rid of the system that is oppressing us? And that's tough, but the best of us, that's what they've done. They said, well, I'm here. How can I best exercise my Africanity, my humanity, and fight for something that's beautiful and worthwhile that other people may benefit from, but principally for me and mine? You know, and even when people like Dr. King did it very gently and very spiritually, they killed him. So even when if they feel your compromised, conclusion you reach is threatening to them, they act the same with you as they act with somebody that's trying to bomb the White House. They see you as the same. You know, the COINTELPRO identified as threats Elijah Muhammad, Stokely Carmichael. They said Malcolm could have been, but we eliminated him. And Dr. King. They had FBI files on Bayard Rustin. He wasn't no type of, like an armed political threat at all.
He was no Khalid Muhammad.
James Baldwin, he wasn't no political threat. Maya Angelou, beautiful sister that brought great beauty and humanity, but she wasn't like a revolutionary threat. So they see us all the same. If you speaking up for black people, I don't care if you poet, if you got a cookbook, if you doing the Dougie, whatever. But if they see you saying something for black, they put you in that category.
Yes.
So that's the thing. We have to be. Brother Malcolm said we need to be politically savvy, and savvy is the opposite of naive. Some people think naivete is it's cute, it's innocent. I don't know. No. We got to teach our people naivete is death. What you don't know will kill you. For instance, baby don't know that's spoiled, or a little toddler don't know that's poison in that bottle. It's not marked. Doesn't have a cap on it. They drink it. They're naive. Naivete politically leads people, like in Harlem. We have a beautiful state park, beautiful amenities, very nice, But what the people don't know is that idea for that park was shopped around different communities. But with the caveat, but you have to allow us to have this filtration treatment plant attached to it that's going to emit toxic fumes. So every other community said, no, thank you, you keep that. But guess what community took it? Mine. I won't say who was the mayor at the time who signed off on that and supported it. But that's what I'm saying. Like, we gotta have backbone. We gotta be able to say no. We got to have an agenda. If it hurts our babies, if it's causing cancer, keep your damn state park. You feel me? And that's where the local politicians might be able to one of the ways they might be able to do something. But at the end of the day, sovereignty and self-determination, man, is always the end game for me. It's always the end game. You know, it's like playing chess. People forget. Do you play chess, my brother?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so you know the answer. A lot of people think, oh, I'm going to get the queen. I'm going to take the queen. I'm going to take the pawns. No. Bro, sis, the way you win this game is by trapping the king. Never forget that. It's very easy. If somebody, you know, when I was young, my father would be taking on my pieces, man, I would get mad. I get mad, bro. I'm like, nah. So if I saw a piece, I took it.
Right.
Ego. And I forgot. My father's giving that piece because he's trying to trap my king. We do this politically all the time. We get distracted. You know? And we like, oh, so we elect a black president. Distraction. Donald Trump, convicted of a million different guilty. I don't give a damn what. Distraction. Because really, our real fight, our real cry should be, why isn't he in jail now for what he did? Not let's wait till July 11th to see what his sentence will be. He should be in jail. So it's like we get distracted. We forget what the goal of this is. And for us, for some of us, the goal is to get a black president, I guess. For me, the goal is self-determination to actually have self-governance. And for those who say that's impractical, and you're watching this in the United States, do understand you're sitting in a country where a bunch of impractical people fought the biggest, strongest empire in the world and beat over this issue of we want our own country. And you're sitting in the United States because those people fought. And these people had no military experience. They just threw them together into a ragtag army. I mean, that's what you do, man, when you have that type of value and love for yourself. So to me, the ultimate is self-determination. But while we here, man, we're going to have to engage some of these political tools, man, and get little concessions we need to survive and develop. But ultimately, the end game has to be we have our own.
Yes, brother Agyei, we are out of time. In fact, we're over time, but on point as usual. I want to give you an opportunity to plug Harlem Liberation School and how people can buy the books online.
Yes, sir. If you everyone sees my name right there, you can go. If you know what Linktree is, you can go through Linktree, or you just type in my name or Harlem Liberation School. You'll come to the YouTube channel. I ask that you humbly subscribe, but I would probably see if I can do, because I know you don't have time. So I'll just say for now, type in my name and you'll come up in Amazon. You come up to all the books.
Okay.
And type in Harlem Liberation School. You'll come right up to the YouTube channel.
Absolutely, and I put all of those things in the search as well. When we were on, I heard from our brother Kwabena Rasuli, so shout out to him.
Yes, sir.
And I want to give a big shout out to Simo Tap. I would encourage everyone, if you can, if you're in New York, try to come to the demonstration on Wednesday in front of Netflix. In the meantime, though, you can go to offthecorner.net and you can print that open letter that Simo Tap wrote to Netflix, and you can copy paste it in the email, or you can send it snail mail. But either way, get them that letter so that you can express your discontent. Brother Agyei, I want to thank you for coming on here and dropping all the jewels. And
hey, man, having me, brother.
Yeah, most definitely, and we look forward to talking to you again next month.
No doubt.
All right, brother. Peace.